Hey guys, so I chose an article that was published in the New York Herald. The title was Where and Why Our Schools Fail Significantly in Early Education. The publisher of this article was Frederick Bonser, and I'll give a little background information. He didn't receive any formal education until high school. He was able to complete high school in just 2 years. However, he had to move 160 miles away to live with his uncle to attend high school. Many years after high school, he then became an early childhood education teacher. And then after that, he became an education professor in the state of Washington and then ended up as an education professor at Columbia University in New York. This newspaper was titled the New York Herald. It was published between the years of 1835 and 1924. So the means of getting this newspaper distributed was through carrier pigeons and telegraphs. It was known to be a nonpartisan newspaper because it equally represented all political parties, whether it was the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, or the Whig Party. The newspaper was published in 1920. This decade was known as the Roaring Twenties. There was a great deal of social and political change that was going on during this time. Many jobs were becoming available. It was shortly after World War I, so many people were relieved about this economic change and the booming economy. Also in 1920, the 19th Amendment was passed, and this amendment granted women the right to vote. This also then began women entering the workforce. Up to this point, women were mainly seen as ones that should be working in the household. But at this point, they started looking for jobs beyond just the house. Here is the article. It is a little blurry, so here is the website, and I will include the website on my post as well, and you are able to zoom in and see it clearer. So a short summary on this newspaper article. Its main focus was how students are being educated but not in the most proper way. They are unable to apply their education beyond the classroom. Many students during this time are unable to apply their education to the real world. So this was a huge problem. Many teachers during this time were only using textbooks, and so it was hard for them to make instruction meaningful. The article did come across as pretty strict and in a harsh way, but it said it wasn't meant to be taken in a negative way. However, it was meant for teachers to reflect on their instruction and be sure that it was being taught in a meaningful way. There was a section in the article, it was titled Exceptional Schools, and it did talk about how these teachers at these few schools did do a good job on making learning relevant for their students. There is a great deal of relevance between this newspaper article and education in today's world. One similarity is I feel like we still need to strive to make education meaningful for our students where they can apply it in the real world. I feel like that is an ultimate goal of teachers back in 1920 and still is a goal for teachers today. Also in the article, it spoke about this big emphasis on testing. Even back in 1920, they had this emphasis of testing, and we still experience that today with standardized testing. I really believe the great emphasis of standardized testing is taking away from meaningful learning for our students. There are a few differences between this 1920s newspaper article and education today. Back then, teachers really only had textbooks to teach from. However, today we have many instructional resources such as technology, different task cards, and various ways for our students to learn beyond a textbook. Also, I feel like we do a better job of implementing ways that our students can apply their learning beyond the classroom. I feel like in math, our students just aren't strictly memorizing facts, but they are learning how to problem solve, which will help them in the real world. There were two main issues that were discussed in the article. First, real-world application was a main issue. Students are simply memorizing facts and they aren't being taught effectively on how to apply it. I think teachers need to reflect on their learning and think about the worth of each assignment. So if students are unable to apply their instruction beyond the classroom, was the instruction truly effective? I think teachers need to ask themselves that. The second issue that was a main focus of the article was testing, and this huge emphasis of testing. And we as teachers try to prepare our students so much for the test, yet it takes away from meaningful instruction. That was experienced both in the 1920s newspaper article as well as Education Today. My overall opinion of this article, I really think it made some really important points for teachers back then and teachers today. I think it could have done a better job about giving teachers opportunities on how to improve their education. It really just spoke about how teachers need to embed more of student interest and imagination. I know during 1920, I doubt they had much teacher training. However, if we want teachers to change, then they need some proper guidance on how to do so. The article really did a great job on emphasizing continuous reflection from a teacher's standpoint. There's much to be learned from this article. Really, overall, it really made me think about how much we can truly learn from the past. If an article in 1920 is going through issues on real-world application and the emphasis on testing, we still have those issues today. And I really feel like there's great emphasis on much that teachers can learn from these issues in the past. It really made me reflect on every assignment that I give my students, the worth of that assignment, and making sure that students can then apply the instruction and the assignments that I give them beyond the classroom. I think this article did a great job on discussing important issues that are experienced today, and I think teachers need to reflect on that even today and how to better effectively teach students in the classroom.